All right, had to double check a few things there. So what we're going to do now is going to be very exciting for those of us here on stage. Maybe not as exciting for you guys. We'll have to find out how it goes. But we're going to have some fun, and that's for sure, because we're going to attempt to demonstrate for you a whole lot of things you just heard about. But one thing I want to do is kind of take you a little bit back in time so you kind of know where we've been and where we're trying to go to with this. We, just a few years ago, actually showed you a newly re-architected application server and another technology, a data grid technology called InfiniSpan, that we actually ran in our demo on a plug computer the size of this, a computer that you could hold in your hand. And some people were like, why are you doing that? And it's because we wanted to show you that we could run things in an ultra-lightweight, ultra-constrained environment, and that would allow us to run in a higher density cloud. So we took that architecture, we then took that application server and that data grid technology, and of course they've become products and supported for many of you here in the audience. And then we then take that and we run yet another demonstration up at Openshift Online just 2 years ago, where we actually had people in the audience download a mobile application we created using HTML5 hybrid mobile application that you then put transactions into that application server hosted at Openshift Online. And so that kind of culminated last year where we said, okay, great. We did those things. Now, how can we make it even better? Well, we had a whole bunch of people in the audience just last year actually pound in auction item, basically auction bids, into a real-time web application, mobile web application we created. And it actually was running at OpenShift, auto-scaling based on the load you guys applied to it, and also demonstrating the capability of an open hybrid cloud. We actually had a Vertex instance and a Torquebox and Immutant working between EC2 at Amazon and Openshift Online simultaneously. And each transaction you guys pushed into the system showed up in that dashboard. So we had a lot of fun with that, obviously. So we also showed you how we built mobile applications and all kinds of stuff. So we thought, well, how can we top that? Well, it's going to be kind of challenging, isn't it? So we decided to go a little bit crazier. So let's walk you through with that. So what we're going to do is we're going to take full advantage of OpenStack. Of course, OpenStack is absolutely happening within our industry, and it allows you to build an infrastructure as a service cloud pretty much anywhere you want. So we actually used OpenShift to build a cloud on stage at a cheap commodity hardware, some borrowed laptops, and some discards that we had around the office. And I'm not kidding you. I can show you a picture of boxes of discarded laptops I received. Like, oh, marketing's not using it anymore. You take it. OK, so we're going to take full advantage of OpenStack, and we're going to build out an infrastructure as a service cloud. And then we're going to leverage OpenShift. So with OpenShift, we can take those hardware components, which become virtual machines, split them up even finer into actual OpenShift gears or containers. And so with OpenShift, it now becomes something available for a developer to use. So what was generic compute capacity, CPU, memory, networking, et cetera, is now something a developer can apply and use. And then we're going to take full advantage of one of the JBoss middleware services. When we talk about XPaths, we're talking about that multiplier, right? Think of it as a force multiplier. And what's going to happen is with Fuse, we're going to basically say, we're going to integrate, in this case, from a Twitter environment. So we're going to build an integration service, integration platform as a service. We're going to integrate from a Twitter environment, grabbing tweets out of the Twitterverse. And we're going to basically see if there's a Salesforce record which matches that Twitter ID. And if, in fact, it does find a match, it might mean that there's a customer talking about us because that's our CRM system. So it could be we're doing some social media monitoring. We're going to see if anyone's mentioning certain keywords, certain brands in the Twitter stream. In this case, it's going to be very simple. And we're going to see if there's a Salesforce ID. And if so, we're going to start a business process based on that. So again, we got our cloud sitting here on stage. We're going to run everything on it, set it all up for you. We're going to reach out to Twitter, see if we can find certain tweets. We're going to reach out to Salesforce, see if there's a match. And then we're going to kick off a business process here on stage as well, also running here in this cheap set of laptops that we have sitting here behind me. And then we're going to drive some dashboards. You're going to see those dashboards. And the final step, if all this works, is we're going to send a text message to your phone. And we're going to send it first to my phone. And at that point, we'll know if the system works end to end. So you might be thinking at this moment, what could go wrong? Well, we don't have a safety net. We're just going to go for it. And hopefully you guys have, understand the energy and enthusiasm we have for this, because it's actually going to be a lot of fun. So here we go. So first up the bat is a fellow named Chris Alfonso. So Chris joins us from the OpenShift team. He's the key guy working with the OpenShift teams and actually making sure we have all the appropriate infrastructure to run OpenShift on OpenStack. So he's been working on that integration, demonstrating that capability, and he's really been one of the key guys behind helping us build out this little data center here on stage. So Chris, could you tell us a little bit about OpenStack and OpenShift?
I think you're being a little generous when you call this a data center, but this is our private cloud, and we've done a little bit of pre-work here. we've installed Red Hat Enterprise Linux OpenStack platform on each of these laptops over here. And then we've created several virtual machines, 3 to be exact. 1 is running an Openshift broker, and 2 are running Openshift nodes. Now, I've got 2 screens up here. One on the right is the OpenStack dashboard. The one on the right is the Openshift dashboard. Now, I'm going to zoom in here so you can kind of see what's going on here. And as this demo proceeds, I want to make sure that you guys can see a lot of the different working components going on, because there's a lot to track, and I'll try to keep it as simple as possible, but there's a lot of pieces and parts going on here. So I've got 2 of these laptops currently configured and set up as hypervisors in our OpenStack cluster. And we'll continue to horizontally scale the infrastructure as we go on through this demo. On the right-hand side here, I've created a small animation here. And what each one of these large light blue circles represent is an OpenShift gear profile that matches each of these laptops. So we're going to, as we bring another laptop online, we're going to provision several virtual machines on them, and then we're going to configure those virtual machines to be additional OpenShift node gears. Or gear profiles, rather. And so each of the small gray circles attached to the large light blue circles represent capacity that we've pre-configured and made slots for each of the Fuse components, as Burr mentioned, with all the BPM containers that are going to be created. As Kevin and Burr create Fuse components, those are actually going to call REST APIs in OpenShift to create additional applications. And you're going to see those gray circles kind of pulsate and animate and turn dark blue. And that represents an application being created. So as we go through this demo, I will kind of make sure to focus and blow that up for you to see a little bit so you can see how our infrastructure is changing over time. And just to give you a little bit of an idea of how this was set up, because you can spend a lot of time setting up infrastructure. You have to set up network policies. You've got to set up firewall rules. You've got to make sure that ports can connect to one another. You've got to create instances, mount storage, on and on and on. And typically, this is a really convoluted process. Typically, has a lot of people and manpower involved. And what I've actually done is used a tool called Heat. It's one of the tools in the set of OpenStack tools. And I fed it ASCII text files, or Heat templates, for Heat to interpret and fire off a whole orchestration process to automatically set up infrastructure. And we're going to continue using this through the demo to update what we call a Heat stack. And I'll give you a quick view of what that actually means in terms of a visualization. So I'll go ahead and zoom in here so you can kind of see this. And we're going to see this infrastructure graph build out over time through this demo. It's going to get really convoluted. I mean, it's already a lot to follow, so don't worry about the specifics too much. But what it does demonstrate is that there are a lot of infrastructure components needed to make a working software solution.
I think that's a critical point. So help me understand something, though. How does Heat relate to, let's say, Puppet or Chef?
Okay, so the differentiator there is that Heat is an orchestration tool for infrastructure. There's a handoff piece there that is very nice, in which you can plug in really any configuration management solution you'd like to. But the delineation there is infrastructure orchestration versus configuration management of running instances.
Okay. And I really appreciate the point you made about there's a ton of actual other little steps that go involved in that. And sometimes as a middleware developer like myself, you don't really appreciate all that goes on. But I have a friend who just told me a story, and I want to relate it to you guys, because I think some of you might appreciate this. So I have a friend who's actually an enterprise architect. I just had this conversation last week. And he works for a very large international brand. And I asked him, I said, well, what is one of the bigger problems that you have? You know, he's a brilliant developer himself. He said, well, we can knock out new services, building out new services instantly. It's not that hard for us to actually do the development. But to get a new virtual machine stood up, a virtual machine, it takes 3 weeks. 3 weeks. And that's just all downtime as they have to wait on it. And it's several $1,000s in the chargeback. He goes, I don't care about the money side of it. I just don't want to wait 3 weeks to get yet one more VM stood up. That's incredibly, and I recognize there's certainly challenges with the various policies and corporate governance and things like that. But I really like what you see here is it looks like you already have 2 servers in our configuration in our environment. 2 servers, and there's already some OpenShift already pre-established.
That's right. I'll go over to the Instances tab here so you can actually see there are 3 virtual machines running, and give you a closer view on that. 1 is a broker, and 2 are OpenShift nodes. That's all working together right now to provide you essentially 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 application spaces.
Awesome. So how hard would it be for us to extend this environment? Does it take us 3 weeks for you to add a new server to the mix?
No. So it's probably going to take me about 2 minutes to add an existing compute server to the OpenShift fabric. It probably takes, a couple minutes.
Okay, so we have, basically what we're talking about here is we have our 3 machines. These are the nodes in our cluster, basically what you've been working on. So we have 1, 2, and 3. You can add the 3rd one? Just in about 2 minutes.
Sure.
All right, so that sounds like entirely too easy, and you guys might think we're kind of faking this, and that's, God honest, not happening here. We're not faking anything. So I want to challenge you with something, Chris. Let's add a 4th machine to the mix. So we actually have a fellow named here, Dan Rades, wherever he went. Oh, he's back here. So Dan Rades has been one of the key guys on the OpenStack team, helping us put all this together. And he literally went around Red Hat and specifically said, can I borrow your laptop? And so he actually brought us a whole new laptop. So what do you got for us, Dan?
Well, we got some brand new hardware here. When you get brand new hardware, you need to plug it into your data center, right? So you're going to plug it in, give it power. You're going to give it network. First thing you need to do is provision it, right? Well, with Red Hat OpenStack platform, we have provisioning included in it. And part of that provisioning is that it makes it very easy and autonomous to take a piece of hardware and add it to an OpenStack cluster. So what I've done in the provisioning system that's over on that end over there is put a record in there that's expecting this laptop to check in. So I'm going to boot this laptop here, and what it's going to do is pixie boot off of the provisioning infrastructure. It'll then install Red Hat Enterprise Linux. It will install the OpenStack packages that are necessary for this laptop to join into our data center here. And then I'll be able to hand it right back over to Chris, and Chris will be able to run the same 2-minute process on this laptop to then expand OpenShift and the whole platform that's running on top of OpenStack onto this piece of hardware here. So you'll see that we can expand horizontally, quick and easy, with the provisioning that's included in OpenStack platform.
You've not seen a data center like this one before, I suspect. Normally there's like racks and things of that nature, but really we just set it up here on stage today. We have our switch right here, and that's basically my home Wi-Fi router I stole out of the environment to make sure we had a Wi-Fi for this as well. So you're basically booting up this laptop. Did we have to actually pay like the extra fees to get like the bloatware and Windows removed from it?
I don't know. That's your end of the spectrum taking care of the money.
Yeah, okay. But it looks like it's going to basically join right up, and if that works out well, Chris, you should be able to throw it right in.
Okay, so that was a lot of stuff that you guys just went over. So let me make sure I got all the pieces. Number 1 is you asked me to bring on our 3rd server, which is not what Dan plugged in. That's our 4th.
Yeah, that's number 4. It looks like I see 4.
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add compute 3, which I've done here, and now you see it here.
Okay.
I've added that. Now I'm going to use heat. I'm going to quickly fire off a stack update, expand the OpenShift infrastructure, create some VMs, hand it off to config management, the installation process, et cetera. That's going to be ready for you guys to deploy applications to. And in about, 7 minutes, 6, 7 minutes?
Yeah, it'll take maybe 7 or 8 minutes the way we have things
Then we'll
configured
add
here
that.
for this machine to be ready to be added to the cluster.
Perfect. One of the things that is going to happen as we go through that whole process is we're going to see more of these compute profiles come online. So we're going to see, we have 1 and 2 there, we're going to see 3 appear, then we're going to see 4 appear, and okay, so 3 is now online. As Kevin and you create Fuse containers, you're going to see more of those gray circles pulsate into dark blue.
Okay, well, let's let that run. So it looks like it actually came into the system, so that's fantastic. So let's show you something else now. So we've been building out, our hardware environment here. We've been basically setting our infrastructure as a service, and Chris, with our laptops, is going to help us compete with Amazon in our private cloud. What do you guys think? We're going to get it configured and set up here. So he's setting up the private cloud, but I now want to take you into the XPaaS, specifically the middleware services now sit on top of that backbone. So we talk about XPaaS here, and I'm just showing you a web page we just set up there. You guys probably already know that we've actually had application servers as a service, right, out there in the public cloud, available at OpenShift Online, but also available with OpenShift Enterprise on-premise. So application container services, but we just added integration services with Fuse, and we just added business processes as well. And so you're going to see some of this all throughout this presentation. So let me actually show you the Fuse Management Console. And actually, one other thing I want to show you is the OpenShift Enterprise Console. So once Chris gets all that set up for me, I now, as a developer, a middleware developer, can actually stand up new instances on my own. I don't actually need any other person in operations, no one who says, well, it'll take 3 weeks to start that up. I can come into this management console and say, I want a new Java EE application server. So we were the first organization to actually bring you a Java EE6 certified application server, available in the public cloud at OpenShift Online, also available to you on-premise with OpenShift Enterprise. So if I'm a Java developer, I can click the button, do a git push, and actually instantiate my brand new services out inside the cloud, in this case, the private cloud. I could bring up a new set of Ruby services. I could bring up a new set of PHP services. I could bring up a new set of Perl services. I can even run a Jenkins server. So all of this capability is available to me right here at the developer desktop. I can do this for myself. It's developer self-service. That enables better developer agility, developer productivity. But we want to go one up from this. This is a great way to do one more service. We're going to take you from the one to the many. So I'm going to show you the Fuse Management Console now. And the idea behind Fuse Fabric is we can launch many services simultaneously. So let me go ahead and get that started. I'm going to hit the Create button here, and I'm going to type in, let me shrink this screen down a little bit so we can see things a little bit better. All right, very good. I'm going to type in, I want a Twitter service. Okay, and let me get it in the right location. Make sure we're all set up here. And I need to pick a profile. So when I pick this profile, all right, so that's our code and our configuration. I'm going to hit Create and Start Container. So at this moment, I am actually starting a brand new gear inside the OpenShift context, inside the virtual machines established by OpenStack. So think of the hardware, right? So we have a base set of hardware, 2 virtual machines per piece of hardware. We have 2 gears, 2 containers per virtual machine, so 4 in total across those things. And it's going to basically set that up. So it's not just, think about it like this. It's not just setting up the operating system. It's also establishing, is there JVM there? Because we need a Java virtual machine for this particular Fuse component. These are basically camel routes, and it requires a Java virtual machine. In addition to the Java virtual machine, it's also downloading and installing and configuring, basically unpacking and configuring Fuse Fabric itself. So Fuse is now being installed there, making sure we have all the underlying camel capability and OSGI capability and ActiveMQ capability you're used to and things you've worked with as a programmer. So I'm starting my service up. It's going through the provisioning process, and it looks like it's nearly done at this point. Okay? So all that happened while I was sitting there talking. We basically set up the JVM, set up the Fuse environment, got our code, custom code over there, provisioned it, and now it's ready to use. It also discovered the message broker. You can also see here I have a couple message brokers running out here. So it discovered the message brokers, and it's now ready to receive tweets. So let's actually drill down on it. And if this goes well, we can see the logs associated with that Twitter service. And then I can see, when I click the camel tab, I can actually look at what that camel route looks like. So let me go to the diagram. And so this is what it looks like. So it's reading in from the streaming API from Twitter. It's making a decision about who sent the tweet in. It's looking for certain keywords at this moment, do some logging, do some conversion and marshalling, a traditional ESB style use case. And then it's going to push it into a queue called tweets. So let me go and pump a tweet in. All right, let me get my Twitter client up. And I'm actually going to say, all right, so let me type correctly. It's hard typing and talking at the same time. OpenStack plus OpenShift. All right, raised to the power of JBoss XPaaS services equal awesome. All right, so that's coming in from our personal account. I'm going to hit tweet there. So it's going out to the Twitterverse. Oh, I already tweeted that. Okay, let's go. So Twitter's giving me verifying it, and if you notice, it came right in. So what happened is I sent it out to Twitter. Twitter immediately sent that back to us here on stage, and then it animates our screen in real time. You now see the 1 there. You probably missed that. Just to be on the safe side, maybe we'll send in another one. Just in case you missed that one, I have another account. So let's go with this one. I really love some OpenStack plus OpenShift. How about that? and JBoss XPath. And if I hit tweet there, okay, you can see we basically pushed that tweet into the system, and we have a couple other tweets already flowing into the system, so you can see them right there. We're going to start one more service, okay? So let me come back to the main Fuse console here and go to containers, and I'm going to say create, and I'm going to say I want the Salesforce service now. And again, I can stand up several of these. I'm just going to stand up one for now. And we're going to do that. And we're going to basically pick the right profile. And we're going to go through the process of creating and starting a container. OK, so basically, as this Salesforce process goes through the same provisioning process you saw earlier, as the Salesforce service, it again is a set of camel routes, a little bit of code, configuration. It's got to make sure we have the JVMs out there. It's got to make sure we take full advantage of the hardware that's available to us. The OpenStack and Openshift is provisioned for us. It's going to set that up, and we'll get it going. So what will be interesting is to see exactly if it drains that queue. So actually, I want to show you the queue. So we'll go here. So this is our message broker queue. And I forgot to show you this. I should show you that. See, there's the queue called tweets that was dynamically established. And you can see there's tweets in the system, including that first tweet that I sent in overall. So, and I've already got people retweeting it because I can see it here on my phone. So they're moving into the system now. And I'm going to come and go back there. OK, so now I wanted to show you, talked about one more thing while that thing's starting. Kevin Connor, who's here on the right side of our stage, he's been our lead architect for this application, this demo environment, and he specifically configured all those Twitter services and Salesforce services. So, Kevin, could you tell us a little bit more about what's going on with that Salesforce service?
Sure, Bo. We designed the Salesforce service in order to demonstrate how easy it is to install a resilient service on OpenStack. Now, as the demo continues, you'll see us install multiple instances of this into the gears that Chris is provisioning for us, and that will provide us with a degree of redundancy in the application. The application does a number of business tasks on our behalf. It consumes the tweets that are coming in, and it identifies those based on the criteria that the business has specified. It then persists those tweets into a database so that we can run business reports on them at a later date. It will then query a Salesforce instance. This is a live Salesforce instance that we've set up specifically for this demo, and try to ascertain whether the tweet is coming from an existing customer or not. If the tweet is coming from an existing customer, then it will retrieve information from the customer's Salesforce account, including information such as the cell phone number that we'll use later on. And finally, it will create a business process so that we can let our customer service team know that they have to go and follow up with that customer.
So if it's not clear, the Twitter API does not give us a phone number or an email address. Salesforce has that information because we're matching the Twitter ID with a Salesforce account, our little CRM system here. And so that's off and running. But I want to show you a couple of things here at Chris while we're over here on this side of the table. So Chris, we had said you're going to bring up the third compute node. You can see that I actually have my Salesforce service running here on number 2, and things are just coming along for you?
That's right. Compute 3 is ready for you. It's got 4 slots ready, and Compute 4 is being configured right now.
All right. We're going to be looking for that, so don't disappoint us here now. So, you know, it's a live demo. Anything could happen. But let's come back over here. I want to show you a couple of things. You can see that actually I have 17 tweets in-queued, 17 de-queued, so the Salesforce service is already consuming my tweets and then pushing them out. So we can see we have several of them running over here. But let me open this guy out real quick. And I want to show you that specific Salesforce service. And you can see it running, OK? And you can see that a bunch of tweets have already gone through the system. So somebody out there is helping us a little bit. But I want to show you this one more time, OK? Let's look at this process one more time. And I'm actually going to bring up the camel one, all right? The Twitter, that already had that one open. But let's see here. Kind of show you this. OK? So we got 19 in the system. But when I actually do the tweet, OK? This is a test message from the live demo at Red Hat Summit. Okay, so let's see if this works for us here. I have my phone here in my hand. I'm going to hit the tweet button, so watch what happens here. So the tweet goes out, and this one does have a Salesforce record, and if you notice carefully on my phone, the text message came in. So a whole lot happened there in a very short period of time. It goes out to the Twitterverse. It gets consumed here on stage in our on-stage cloud. It basically then goes to Salesforce, double checks it, hits the BPMS system, goes to Twilio, and sends the message out just like that. OK? So that's all running. Absolutely. So we got even more to show you. So some of you guys are thinking, oh, wow, you showed us a lot already. Yeah, we got more, okay? So at the end of the day, commodity hardware does not offer business value, okay? Bare metal does not offer business value. We know that already, and as developers, many of you guys are here are developers, you might be DevOps folks, you might be systems administrators, our primary mission in life is to actually build better processes, better infrastructure, better support services for the business that sees some value. So we're going to try to raise this game even another notch, all right? We want to show you our BPMS suite, and specifically with the BPM environment, you can actually do a whole bunch of new capability that goes well beyond the Java programmer, the Ruby programmer, the Python programmer. So in other words, we don't need programmers at this level. We can involve the business analysts, as you heard from Craig and Mark. So I'm very excited to actually introduce you to a fellow over here named Luis Cortez. He's the co-founder of the Polymeta group that you might have heard of several times already, and they've had a huge impact on the open source technology that we now have within the JBPM project, rules projects, otherwise known as the BPM suite for our supported products. So Luis, could you show us some of that?
Definitely. Thank you, Barb. We've seen how Red Hat is addressing the needs of the modern application builder. So one of those roles is the business analyst. This type of role needs to go all the way from modifying process-based applications, creating data forms, even in some cases modifying data sources. With that in mind is that we have created JBoss BPM Suite, which is also at the heart of the BPM services for XPath. BPM Suite is one of the most advanced products in the market these days to manage the whole life cycle of process management, starting with modeling, documenting, simulation of processes, running those processes, and monitoring them. And when we think about processes, the first thing that comes to mind is modeling processes. That's why we have created and included in BPM Suite 6 an advanced process designer that is web-based and also supports BPMN2 that enables organizations to model all types of business processes. And actually, what we have modeled here for this demo is a process that is going to automate some manual interventions that we need to do with the tweets. So basically, the process starts when one tweet gets into the system through the infrastructure that we just created on the fly here. Actually, BPM sent out an SMS via Twilio that you saw how Bursell received. Then this tweet is going to be reviewed. I can decide to escalate it to my head of support, who can then decide to provide feedback or to call a customer, and then record the result of that call, and finally update the Salesforce account. Paramount to process management is not only process management itself, what we do with tasks, but also the information that goes along with the tasks that we are managing. That's why we have included a data structure creation and a form design tool within BPM Suite 6, so the business analyst roles without coding can create advanced forms, tie them into the processes, and that in that way help manage all the information that goes throughout the process. Actually, an advanced functionality that we are also including in process management is simulation, so we can see how a whole department runs processes throughout the organization. Now let's get some work done. Let's see what is happening with those tools that are generating tasks inside the process. So actually we can see here the task list. This is an advanced component that dynamically refreshes and incorporates all the different tasks that are being put into the system. We can see those as a grid, as we are seeing here, or also as a calendar view. So when we have long-running processes, such as mortgage loan application, we can schedule those tasks and work with them as they are coming with here. In this case, we're going to work more in real time. So let's take a look at some of these tweets. So let's take these tweets, for instance, here, and let's see what this person is saying here. So, well, in this case, we have a congratulation for someone that is saying it's amazing how you can build a leading-edge path on commodity hardware. So actually, would like my boss actually to address this personally, so I'm going to ask for some escalation, and I'm going to complete this task. So what has happened here is not just that I pressed the button, but actually a whole number of things have been happening in the execution of the process. And actually, if we go back to the process model, we can see how we see in different colors what's the path that actually this task has followed until it was escalated to my manager. So we can now see with the context what has happened with this task before and decide with more basis what we want to do it when we go forward. Last but not least, with BPM Suite, we incorporate advanced dashboarding capabilities. So we have incorporated here advanced dashboarding capabilities coming from Polymeta, and we have created a number of different indicators that are showing information that is being generated by all the activities that we have been doing in this demo. So in this case, we're showing who are the top 10 tweeters, what's the tweet evolution, so in the last few minutes, how the tweets have been coming into the system, how many processes have been created per time, and also what are the tags that are the basis for those tweets.
Okay, that's pretty awesome. So one thing that maybe I wasn't particularly clear about, and I want to make sure we clarify one more time. This is an environment that basically there's no programmers involved in creating it. There was no, you didn't have to write any Python code, Ruby code, Java code to create this environment right here. And so with this dashboard, we can drill down on the data and see additional detail, and can we customize the dashboard without involving a programmer?
Well, definitely. You know, the audience may be thinking, all this information is clearly interrelated. So it would be great if we could drill down into it and get a more level of detail. So actually, if we want to get in more detail into demo app, just by clicking on the demo app portion of this graph, the system is going to drill down into this sea of information and come up to the surface with more detail about who are exactly the tweeters that are providing these demo app tweets, at what rhythm they came into the system. So we can drill down in many dimensions and cut the information and slice it in such a way that it provides valuable business insight. In addition to this, we also can customize this dashboard. And so let's say, for instance, that my boss asked me about what's the evolution of the tasks within the process. So for instance, how many tasks we have in each step of the process. You know, in a normal business world, I will need to go to my IT department. It would take them hours, maybe days, to modify a dashboard, create a report for me so I could provide this information to my boss. In BPM Suite 6, what we do is provide easy tools to customize this dashboard. So I just deleted one of the graphs up here. So I'm going to add a new one into it. So just by clicking here, I'm going to be offered a number of different graphical components that I can drag and drop into this interface. So I'm going to drag one of them into the same area that the other graph was utilizing just a minute before. And then we're going to customize it in the same fashion that you would customize your favorite graph in your favorite spreadsheet. So here we're going to be measuring tasks. So we will show how many tasks we have for each step of the process. We're going to give a name to this graph, which is number of tasks per step here. We're going to give it the same size of the rest of graphs. And we're going to give a bit more room here. Okay, so we can see easily the tags that are showing the information. So in just a few seconds, I just created a new indicator here that wasn't there before. And actually, you can see here that we have 6 tweets pending to be worked with on the first step of the process and only 1 on the second one. So actually, to a business user, this would give them an insight into possibly a bottleneck is building up in this first step of the process. So we may decide to assign more resources into processing these tweets.
And what I really love is that as a developer, I don't have to rebuild this. I get it out of the box and all that capabilities I get for free. That's awesome. So one other thing I'm curious about, though, is does this run in a mobile environment? Because after all, the average business executive business person is going to be pretty busy. Can I run it on my tablet?
Definitely. So actually, I have here the same setup running in my iPad. So we can see the same dashboard that we're seeing in the desktop. We're seeing it in the dashboard. So we can zoom in and see who are the top 10 tweeters, for instance, or at what rhythm the tweets have been coming into the system in the demo. And I can do exactly the same drill down that I was doing before. So we're drilling down in the demo here and seeing at what rhythm the demo app tweets have been coming into the system. So that allows you to be as productive in the road as it would be in your desktop.
OK. Well, we kind of want to start opening this up for everybody, right? And not just the people who actually found a Salesforce record because they sent me their Twitter ID before the event. You saw that email. Now, at this point, though, I'm curious to know, can we see the people with a Salesforce record versus without a Salesforce record?
Definitely. In order to provide that, we have created an additional area here in this dashboard. So we have tweets coming from Salesforce accounts, which means that customers are sending tweets into the system, and also tweets that are coming from non-Salesforce accounts, which means that there's people that don't have an account into Salesforce. So actually, in organizations, we could have different teams to work for the customers that are complaining or saying something good about us, or for non-customers. And this would be an easy way to know how many of those we have in each of the different areas.
OK, well, fantastic. So at this point, we kind of showed you a lot of different capabilities, and perhaps we should recap it real quick and make sure we have covered all the appropriate ground. So our focus here was on XPaths, and we leveraged the capabilities of OpenStack to build out this hardware to turn it into virtual machines, essentially. Our own little infrastructure as a service cloud right here on stage, and this is for real. You can come play with it later if you want, perhaps. But then we actually used Openshift to carve up those little virtual machines into containers that we can then use as application services. And then we leveraged the capability of the iPaaS, right, integration and platform as a service, service to distribute our services across that environment. And you can even see here, I actually have a ton of services up and running, thanks to Kevin over there, who's been standing them up for me as an example. He's been standing up those services across that backbone. And Chris, I'm curious, did we get all our servers up and running?
Everything's up and running, and Kevin's been over here creating Fuse application containers, and they have all landed on Compute 3 and Compute 4.
Awesome. You got to love it when the hardware actually comes to life and actually works. Fantastic. So we want a little help from all of you guys here in the audience. We want you to test our production system we just put in production here on stage for you right here and now. We just need a little Twitter love from you. If you just give us a pound hashtag demo up or hashtag demo down, think of that as a thumbs up or a thumbs down. You're going to see yourself show up here on the dashboard as well, based on your Twitter ID. If we don't find a match in Salesforce, you show up on one side of the chart. If you do have a match in Salesforce, you show up on the other side. And if you do have a match in Salesforce, you should get that text message from Twilio, assuming we have the right mobile number from you also. So at this point, you have the opportunity to actually drive traffic and transactions into our demonstration application right here on stage. So let's see how this is going so far. I want to make sure we are monitoring this environment. Okay. And are you getting some stuff over in your dashboard over there?
Yes, definitely. We're starting to see some action here.
Okay.
So both in Salesforce and non-Salesforce account, some tweets are starting to come in. So people with Twitter IDs such as Jeff Gus, Bevin McNamara, Zabi Al-Bizuri, Justin Davis, etc., those tweets are starting to come.
Okay, and we already have 32 tweets coming into the system, so there's a number of tweets already flowing in, which is kind of exciting, kind of fun. And I'm also getting a ton of retweets for the various tweets I sent out here on my phone already. You can see a lot of that happening. So this is your opportunity really to kind of drive things in. We've certainly had a lot of fun with you guys. Hopefully you now understand what the power of the capability is here, with the elasticity, the flexibility, the ability to dynamically provision this and send it on out. So at this point, Mark, do you need something?
Yeah, I think so. This demo's going a little bit too well, so I'm going to inject some reality, and we all know that shit happens. So I'm going to disconnect this machine, no battery, take the power out. I think that's dead.
Hey, Mark,
I wish it was running Windows, but it's
Mark,
not. So.
Mark, that was Jim Whitehurst's.
Dan, do you
Is that the
remember
wrong
who we borrowed
one?
this one from? Okay,
It's
so
definitely broken.
so we're down to 3 servers now. Okay, so things are still trucking though. So we got down to 3 servers. You can see our dashboard still up. We still have tweets flowing into the system. And if you notice, even our Fuse Fabric has responded to say, hey, our other Twitter service is down at this point. So we'll try to get that restarted. But hopefully you guys had some fun with us here today. You saw us do a lot of crazy stuff right here live for you on stage. We had some fun with it. But really, I want you to think about and take this really home with you as you go throughout the week. By the way, a lot of these folks have a deep dive presentation on a lot of these technologies. So if you want to learn more about OpenStack and Openshift and XPads, and if you attended any of the sessions yesterday with James and Rob, they drilled down on all these capabilities. And there's a lot more of that happening now, so I want you guys to be aware of that. So make sure you check out their sessions. You're going to see even a lab with Chris later in the week if you want to actually try some of this hands-on. So at this point, I want you guys to remember one thing. Due to the power of OpenShift and OpenStack, open source and open standards, we really are driving to a whole nother level of basically developer productivity, business analyst productivity, and hopefully you guys can see we really are attempting to be a force multiplier for all of you guys here in the audience. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over back to Mike. Thank you guys very much. Mike?